Run away now." That's what a stranger whispered to me at a highway rest stop. No introduction, no explanation, just those 3 chilling words. I blinked in confusion, gripping my coffee cup a little tighter. "What do you mean?" I asked, barely above a whisper. She didn't answer right away. She just stared at me with this intensity that made my skin crawl, like she could see straight through me. And when she finally spoke again, it wasn't much better. "If you don't, you'll become their prey." I didn't know what to say. I didn't know this woman. She didn't know me, right? But something about her words made me feel like the air had thickened around me. I rushed back to the car, heart pounding, mind racing. That was the moment everything started unraveling. Let me back up a little. My name is Stedman Graham. I'm 33 years old, and I run a fashion company I built from the ground up. I've always loved clothes, colors, textures, the power of expression through what you wear. After design school, I hustled. Started small, learned fast, and eventually I launched my own brand. Things took off. But that came with a cost. Relationships? Nah. Barely had time for lunch most days, let alone dating. Some people tried to get close, but it was always the same. Either they wanted my money or my image, the successful fashion mogul. Not the real me. Not the guy who still sometimes doubts himself or falls asleep on the office couch at 2 a.m. But as I hit my 30s, I started feeling the pressure. My friends were getting married, having kids, talking about mortgages and PTA meetings. My parents, especially my mom, kept nudging me, hinting that it was time. And I started to wonder if maybe, just maybe, I was missing something. That's when I met Andrew Moore. He was introduced to me by his older brother, Thomas Moore, who happened to be the executive VP of my company. Thomas was loyal, smart, and honestly one of the few people I trusted completely in the business world. He'd been with me since the early days, back when I couldn't afford to pay people what they deserved. When their father passed away, I went to the funeral to support Thomas. That's where I first met Andrew. He was 33 too, just like me. Tall, clean-cut, the quiet type with a warm smile. He helped coordinate the service on Thomas's behalf, made sure I had someone to talk to during the reception, and shared funny stories about their dad to lighten the mood. He was considerate, thoughtful, and knowing he was Thomas's brother, I let my guard down. I figured if Thomas trusted him, I could too. We started dating not long after, and for the first time in my adult life, I felt like someone saw me. Not just Stedman the CEO, but Stedman the person. I cooked for him, which was wild since I barely had time to cook for myself. I cleaned up before he came over. I'd rearrange meetings just to grab dinner with him. I really wanted it to work. And sure, there were red flags, like how he'd complain whenever I had to work late. "Work again? You're the boss. Can't you just take a break?" he'd say, like it was that simple. I'd explain again and again that being the boss didn't mean freedom. It meant responsibility. But I brushed off the frustration. Maybe he just missed me. Maybe he just didn't get it. A year passed, then we got married. Thomas was thrilled, and I'll admit, I kind of liked the idea of being officially tied to him through family. I felt like I was building something solid, something that would last. Andrew even took my last name, Graham, which surprised everyone, especially my parents. But he insisted, said he wanted to be part of my family. At the time, I thought it was sweet. Now, I wonder what he was really planning from the start. Anyway, things settled down a bit at work, and I suggested a trip. Something fun, something just for us. Our honeymoon, technically, since we hadn't taken one after the wedding. We looked at brochures, talked about Paris and Tokyo and beaches in Thailand, but Andrew scoffed at every idea. "Abroad? That's such a waste of money." I was taken aback. A honeymoon being a waste? I tried to explain. We'd never even taken a trip together before. Eventually, we compromised. He picked a hotel a few hours away. Nothing fancy, but nice enough. I went along with it. I just wanted time with him. I ignored the sting in my chest when he shot down all my ideas. On the day of the trip, Thomas messaged me, "Don't worry about anything here, just enjoy yourself." That gave me some peace. I really needed this break. So I got in the car with Andrew and we hit the road. He was in a good mood during the drive, making jokes, playing music. I actually started to relax. Then we stopped at a rest area. He wanted a cigarette. I don't smoke, so I told him I'd grab some coffee. He tossed me the keys and said he'd be back in a bit. And that's when I met her, the woman with the warning. That one chilling whisper changed the course of everything. The fear in her eyes, the way she gripped that coffee cup like it was her last lifeline. It hit something deep in me. I didn't think she was crazy. I couldn't. So I listened. I rushed back to the car and opened the trunk, my hands trembling. I wasn't sure what I expected, but what I found knocked the air out of my lungs. A shovel, a knife, a bottle of pills, work gloves, dark clothes. Who packs this for a weekend getaway? I slammed the trunk shut and jumped into the driver's seat. My heart felt like it was about to rip through my chest. I saw Andrew walking back toward the car from the smoking area. He waved, and I floored it. I didn't stop driving for a good 20 minutes. I didn't even know where I was going. I just had to get away. The thought of Andrew catching up to me made my skin crawl. Every second, I kept checking the rearview mirror like I was being hunted. My breathing was shallow. My mind? A complete mess. Finally, I spotted a police station off the next exit. I swerved off the highway and pulled into the lot like my life depended on it, because maybe it did. I ran inside, out of breath, probably looking like a lunatic. "Please help me," I said, my voice trembling. "I think my husband's planning to hurt me." 2 officers looked up, concerned but cautious. I explained everything I could, the shovel, the knife, the pills. I told them how a woman warned me at the rest stop. I even mentioned that Andrew was probably on his way here. They looked at each other, unsure. Then I heard his voice behind me. "Stedman, what the hell?" I turned around. Andrew was standing there, acting confused, hurt, and, worst of all, innocent. He gave the officers this wounded husband performance. "He just drove off and left me stranded. I had to hitch a ride to get here." The officer turned to him. "Sir, do you have any luggage in the car?" Andrew nodded slowly. "Yeah, in the trunk." "Would you mind showing us?" they asked. We all walked out together. My hands were shaking. My stomach felt like it had shrunk to the size of a grape. They opened the trunks. The items were still there, just as I'd seen. The knife, the sleeping pills, the gloves, the dark work clothes, and the shovel. It looked like a murder starter pack. But Andrew didn't even blink. "Oh," he said, chuckling awkwardly. "This is all for a gem mining activity near the hotel. We thought it'd be fun. You know, like panning for gold?" The officers looked at each other. One of them raised an eyebrow. "And the pills?" one asked. "Those are mine," Andrew replied smoothly. "I can't sleep well unless I have my usual stuff. Traveling really messes with me." He went on, acting all sweet and sympathetic. "My husband works so hard I thought I'd go on the mining trip alone so he could rest. I just didn't explain it well, and I think he panicked." He smiled, like we'd all just had a little lover's misunderstanding, like I hadn't just accused him of trying to kill me. The officers looked at me, unsure what to make of it. I could tell they didn't fully believe him, but they also weren't ready to handcuff the guy over some camping tools and pills. In the end, they let us go. And just like that, I was back in a car with a man I no longer trusted, headed to a hotel that might be the last place I ever stayed. Yeah, it was that real. The drive to the hotel was weirdly quiet. Andrew didn't even yell or get defensive. He acted like I'd just had a bad dream. He reached out to hold my hand once, and I flinched so hard it startled him. We got to the hotel, checked in, and entered the room. The moment we dropped our bags, Andrew said, "Go take a shower, babe. Relax. You've had a rough day." I nodded, pretending to go along with it. But halfway to the bathroom, I remembered I'd left my face wash in my overnight bag. I turned around. That's when I heard it. A voice, Andrew's voice, low but not low enough. "That was close. Never thought he'd check the luggage." A pause. "Our plan's still on. Don't worry. He doesn't suspect a thing." My whole body locked up. My heart hit pause, then fast forward. I crept toward the door and listened. "The company will be yours soon. Make sure to get the paperwork ready for the ownership transfer." Another pause. "You're always good at this, bro." Bro. Andrew only had one brother, Thomas. No way. Not him. Not Thomas, the guy who stood by me from day one. The guy who helped me scale my brand from a garage studio to international stores. The guy I trusted with my passwords, my calendar, everything. My knees almost buckled. It all started to make sense. Why Andrew was so conveniently single, so eager to marry into my family, so willing to take my last name. Why Thomas introduced him to me so quickly after their father passed. Maybe even that wasn't an accident. And the store clerk, she didn't say he, she said they. They plural. They were both in on it. I don't know how long I stood there in shock, but when I finally moved, I went straight to the bathroom and splashed cold water on my face. I stared at myself in the mirror. My reflection looked calm, but inside, I was a volcano. I wasn't going to die here. I wasn't going to let them win. After rinsing my face, I stood there for a moment longer, breathing in through my nose, out through my mouth, grounding myself. I was scared, but I was more furious than anything. If Andrew and Thomas thought I was just some naive CEO they could scam in silence, they had another thing coming. I walked out of the bathroom like nothing had happened. "That felt good," I said, smiling faintly. Andrew looked up from the bed. "You seem to be in a better mood." "Yeah, sorry about earlier. I've been running on fumes lately. Stress just caught up to me. I guess I had a little meltdown." He nodded slowly, buying the performance. "It's okay, I get it." Liar. He thought I was stupid. He thought I hadn't heard a damn thing. I played it cool, letting the conversation drift into casual topics. Dinner, tomorrow's plans, meaningless small talk. All the while, my mind was racing. Andrew mentioned he'd be going to the gem mining place in the morning and told me to sleep in and relax. Yeah, right. As if I'd just let myself be buried in some remote field without even a fight. After he stepped out to shower, I got to work. I reopened his luggage and pulled out the bottle of sleeping pills. I dumped every pill out and replaced them with my vitamin C tablets. They looked almost identical. I tucked the real pills into my own supplement bottle and resealed his like nothing happened. If he tried to drug me again, it would backfire. After that, I called Thomas. "Hey, how was work today?" I asked, acting cheerful. "Oh, usual day. Nothing too crazy. Just about to wrap up and head home." "Really? That's funny." Because when I called to the office's emergency line afterward, just to ask a quick work question, the night clerk said Thomas had already left for a business trip and wouldn't be back tomorrow either. Someone's lying. That sealed it. Thomas was either on his way to the hotel or already here. Dinner arrived around 7. Room service brought in 2 fancy trays, grilled fish, soup, wine, the works. Andrew clapped his hands together. "Wow, this looks amazing. Let's eat." "Yeah, but go wash your hands first," I said casually. He smiled and got up. I watched him walk into the bathroom. Then I crept back toward the table and watched closely. Sure enough, Andrew came back, crushed a couple of my sleeping pills, actually vitamins now, and sprinkled them into my wine. "Smile, Stedman. Don't let him see you shake." When he turned around, I was already seated. He handed me the glass. "To us," he said, raising his. "To us," I replied. I took a sip, pretending to relax. Then I took another, pretending to get sleepier and sleepier as the meal went on. "This is really good," I murmured mid-bite. "I'm so tired, though." "You probably just need rest," he said gently, almost too gently. After a while, he said, "You should take your supplements before bed. You always forget." I know, I muttered sleepily. "I'm just too tired tonight. But you can have them if you want." That part wasn't a bluff. Sometimes Andrew actually took my supplements when he felt worn out. He didn't hesitate. He popped 2 pills straight from the container, the real sleeping pills. Boom. The plan was working. A little while later, staff came to clear the plates. Andrew waved them off politely, then stretched. "Ready to crash?" "Yeah," I yawned, dragging myself toward the bed. I climbed in and pretended to fall asleep. 10 minutes later, I heard him snoring. Then, his voice. He wasn't asleep. He was on the phone. "Bro, you on your way?" My blood ran cold. I gave him a double dose. He's out. Won't wake up for hours. Another pause. "Yeah, maybe we should just do the water trick again, like we did with Dad." "What? What did he just say?" "Did I hear that right? Did they kill their father too?" I couldn't breathe. Andrew continued. "Yeah, the company's yours, and the insurance payout's mine. It'll take time since it's a disappearance, but that's the best way. No body, no trace." He laughed. Like this was some casual Thursday night heist. I had to clamp my hand over my mouth to keep from making a sound. I recorded everything, every single word. Then I waited. I waited for the pills to do their job. And sure enough, about 15 minutes later, Andrew's voice started to slur. "I'm getting sleepy too. Gonna nap till you get here." "Good, sleep deep, you snake." I watched his body go limp, then finally silence, and I moved. I grabbed my phone, bag, and all the evidence, the photos of him drugging my drink, the call recording, the tampered pills. I got the hell out of that hotel. I bolted from that hotel like my life depended on it, because it still might have. Clutching my phone, I hailed a cab and begged the driver to take me straight to the nearest police station. I don't even remember what I said, just that my voice shook and my hands wouldn't stop trembling. He must have sensed the urgency because he stepped on it. The second I got through those doors, I dumped everything I had onto the desk. The recording, the photos, the bottle of switched supplements. This time, the cops didn't look at me like I was overreacting. They called backup immediately. Within 20 minutes, a squad car pulled up to the hotel. I went with them. My heart was pounding, but I felt something else too. Relief. For the first time in days, I wasn't running. I was fighting back. We entered the hotel suite. Andrew was out cold, drooling into the pillows, and there in the doorway stood Thomas. His eyes went wide when he saw me. "Stedman? What the? Why are you here, and with the police?" His act didn't last a second. He looked around, saw the officers, the mess, the chaos, and the color drained from his face. "I know everything," I said, holding my phone tightly. "I know what you planned, and I know what you did to your father." Thomas's jaw clenched, but he said nothing. There were no excuses left to give. He was done. The officers escorted both brothers out of the hotel in handcuffs. Andrew was barely conscious, mumbling incoherently. Thomas, always the cool one, just stared ahead, expression blank. But I knew what was going through his mind. He was calculating his next move. Too late. I had proof, and the law, finally, was on my side. Back at the station, everything unraveled fast. The evidence was airtight. The audio alone was enough to indict them both. Add in the pills, the intent, the shovel, the forged documents. Yeah, they were cooked. In the following weeks, the whole thing made headlines. Fashion CEO targeted by husband and business partner in shocking murder for inheritance plot. It was surreal watching the news anchors say my name like I was a character in a movie. Strangers were discussing my life, my trauma. But even though it hurt to relive everything, I was glad it was out in the open. Andrew and Thomas both received long prison sentences: attempted murder, fraud, conspiracy, and, after the investigation reopened the circumstances of their father's death, well, let's just say accidental drowning didn't hold up anymore. I filed for divorce immediately. Andrew tried to fight it, said we could work it out. Please. The judge didn't even blink before granting it. Thomas, of course, was fired from the company. I issued a public statement. My board was shaken, but supportive. Some clients pulled out at first, but many stayed. They respected the fact that I stood strong, that I exposed the rot instead of covering it up. It took months to stabilize the business. I threw myself into it. Work was the only thing I could control. But even then, I couldn't forget the woman at the rest stop. Her eyes, her words, her warning, she saved my life, and I didn't even know her name. I asked around, tried calling the highway shop, but no one knew anything. It was like she'd just vanished. Then, one day, out of nowhere, my assistant knocked on my office door. "Stedman, there's someone here to see you." I turned around, and there she was. She looked just like I remembered her. Calm, strong, intense. "I'm glad you're safe," she said softly. I walked around my desk and wrapped her in a hug before I could stop myself. Thank you, you saved me." She pulled back and looked me dead in the eye. "Actually, you saved me too." I blinked. "What do you mean?" She took a deep breath. "My name is Aurora Moore. I'm Thomas and Andrew's sister." I swear the air got sucked out of the room. "I overheard their plan at our father's funeral," she continued. "I knew what they were capable of. I tried to warn people, but no one believed me. No one wanted to listen. So when I saw you with Andrew at the rest stop, I knew. I had to do something." I was speechless. "They didn't even know I was there that day," she said. "I'd been taken in by our mom after the divorce. We weren't close anymore, but seeing what they'd become, I couldn't let them hurt anyone else." Tears welled up in my eyes. "You put yourself in danger to save me." She nodded. "And you followed your instincts. That's what saved both of us." We sat down and talked for over an hour. She told me about their childhood, how things had always been off, how Thomas had been manipulative from a young age, and Andrew just followed his lead. Their father's death hadn't been the first suspicious thing in their history, just the most tragic. "I wanted to stop them years ago," she said, "but I didn't have the power. Now, thanks to you, they won't hurt anyone else." We stayed in touch after that. There was something healing in knowing that even out of betrayal, there was connection. Someone else had survived their storm, just like I had. After the dust settled, I got back into my routine. My parents stopped bugging me about marriage. Thank God. I wasn't bitter, but I was cautious. I wasn't sure if I'd ever trust anyone that deeply again. And honestly, that was fine. I had my business, my peace, my life. Then, about 3 years later, I met someone. His name was Ryan. He was the CEO of a startup we partnered with. Also divorced, also had trust issues. We bonded over business, heartbreak, and whiskey. He didn't treat me like a trophy, or a stepping stone, or a wallet. He just liked me, for me. We started dating slowly, carefully, no pressure, no pretending. And earlier this year, we got engaged. We're planning a spring wedding, nothing flashy, just close friends, good music, and peace. "You've already survived the worst," Ryan told me one night. "Now all you've got left is the best." I don't know if life really works like that, but I do know this. I'll never forget what happened. I'll never forget who tried to destroy me. But more importantly, I'll never forget who saved me. And I'll never forget that even when your world falls apart, it's possible to rebuild, piece by piece, into something even stronger.